Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Good Time. So, Good Time is directed by the Safdie brothers, who also directed Heaven Knows What, and haven't done too much else. They're up-and-coming directors, brothers, I believe, that have a lot of promise, so they tried to show off their talents with Good Time. This film was produced by A24, it stars Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and it follows the story of a guy who works with his brothers to rob banks, but his brother gets into a very bad situation, and the other guy has to try to save him from it. I'm not going to say too much because the trailers hardly revealed anything. They practically didn't reveal anything at all. I went into this movie really not knowing anything, and I think that's the way you should experience this movie. I'm not going to say too much because the trailers did not show much at all. They, in fact, actually barely showed anything. Same thing with the marketing. Really everything with this movie wasn't revealing too much, and that's why I went into it. Hardly knowing anything about this movie, and I think that's the way you need to experience, because I have to say, Good Time is one of the best films I have seen all year, and one of the best films from this decade. I was completely shocked and surprised and in awe at this movie. It's my number 3 of the year. There's two films I can never see getting above it, which is Get Out and A Ghost Story. But beyond that, this movie is honestly phenomenal. When I came out of the theater, I was overwhelmed with thoughts by it. I really didn't know what to make of this movie. There was just so much going on with it. And as the film goes on, as, 3 or 4 days since you've seen it, it continues going on in your mind, and you continue to think about everything in the movie. And the effect and the power of it starts to invade you. And the way that this film represents itself is so unique and just refreshing. The Safdie brothers have a very distinct and unique style that is really not like a lot of other people's. This is probably, other than maybe Get Out, the most unique film I have seen all year. In fact, it might even be more unique than Get Out. This movie took a completely different turn from your typical bank robbing movie. It was completely different, and it was completely separate from any other movie that I have practically seen ever. The style was completely unique. The acting and directing was extremely different, and I have to say, it's not that the film was just unique, but the fact that it was so unique and so different definitely added to it. But sometimes a film can be extremely unique and still lack in style, but thankfully, this film is still full of style and substance. The style in this film is absolutely incredible. Its depiction of nightlife in very sketchy areas. I'm not sure exactly where Good Time is set, but it's in a very sketchy area full of lots of crime. And the way that they depict nightlife and how dirty and gritty it is was terrifically done. And the way the aesthetic of this film was just terrific. They use lots of neons. It was a very neon-drenched movie, and that made for something that was pleasing and incredible to look at. But beyond that, the directing and the acting in this film are just astonishing. I already mentioned how the Safdie brothers incorporated style, but the way that they chose to show substance, it was similar to Dunkirk from earlier this year. The way that Dunkirk attempted to just go for a pure, intense experience. Good Time does the same thing, but does it very differently. Because there's a lot of style, there's a lot of emotional connection between the brothers, and though you only see them on screen very briefly, you understand why Robert Pattinson's character would want to go after his brother so much. And that was really well done. And beyond that, every other aspect of this film is just so well crafted. There's not really a single moment where this film lags. From the moment it begins, you get this sort of slow-paced scene where you get to see a character in pain. I won't exactly say what it is. It's probably not what you're thinking. And then it continues on, and from there, it is just non-stop intense. It's like your worst panic attack times 100. It is that level of intense. I was on the edge of my seat, I was concerned, and I was scared throughout the entire runtime of this movie. But when it came to the ending, I have to say I believe the ending is what makes this film a unique masterpiece. Because it packs such an emotional punch that I really don't think anyone will see coming. The way that it shows, the way that it almost gets existential at the end, pondering the true meaning of life and what you're trying to do. It was never pretentious, and in fact, I'm not even sure if existential is the right word to use. But the way that it hit you was such an emotional gut punch, and just questioning everything that the characters had done and questioning your own life was so effective and powerful and really set this film apart. I really do have to say that Good Time is a movie that you absolutely need to see. I'm getting this review out later than I wanted to, but hopefully it is still in a theater around you, and if it is, go out and support it, because films like this rarely get made anymore. And thank God A24 put out a wide release for a movie like this. When you see it, you will not know what to think. After I saw this movie, I was unsure if I wanted to review it or not, just because I was so overwhelmed and just destroyed by the film. But as days went on and as I kept on thinking about it, my thoughts became more solidified, and I realized that this film is absolutely one of the best of the year. I will give Good Time an 8.75 out of 10. Alright, that concludes my review for Good Time. So, what do you think of this film, or do you think the Safdie brothers have a future in directing? Comment in the comment section below, and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.